The views and opinions expressed by the guest author or speaker during this live session are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Reader's Magnet. The content shared is for informational purposes only and does not constitute endorsement or promotion of any particular belief, ideology, or product.
Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Reader's Magnet featured author interview, where we dive deep into the world of creativity and inspiration. And our guest for today is the author of the book, All Up in Your Business, Managing Your Business Crap. So please help me welcome Ms. Julianna Newland. So, Ms. Newland, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And again, to all of our viewers, if ever you want to check it out, though, and follow us through, we'll be adding links down in the description below for you, where you can purchase a copy of the book. And for you also to know what the book is all about and who the author is, let's hear from the author itself. So, Julianna, please tell us, who is the Julianna Newland?
Well, I am from Indianapolis and lived here my whole life. I am retired after working nearly 40 years here in Indianapolis. 24 of those were spent with a Fortune 500 company in management. I also work for 2 nonprofits and a trade association and state government. I love writing. I was an English major when I graduated from college, and all of my jobs that I had involved a lot of writing, so that was very good for me. I am married and have an adult son who lives in Texas. So that's basically who I am.
Well, and I love that. And, talking more about the career and the past that you have been through and a lot of experience as well, there is no question that this book is really coming from a credible source. So, Julianna, one thing, though, that all up in your business, like, again, your career spans a fascinating blend of writing, public affairs, and government relations. So how have these diverse experiences influenced your approach to storytelling then?
Well, although they were all different jobs, they all entailed a lot of writing, and it was nonfiction writing. The job that I had for the Fortune 500 company required me to write a lot of summaries of public policy proposals, and those were made available to state lawmakers and to the management at the company where I worked. So that was basically nonfiction writing. It was factual. It had to be honest. It had to be somewhat, it didn't have to be, it was helpful to be creative so that the readers would pay attention to it. And the other jobs that I had after that involved employee communications, doing blog writing, nonfiction, and other type of writing to the employees to inform them about the energy nonprofit nonprofit that I work for. So diverse jobs, but all very similar in that they involved a lot of writing.
Again, since you've mentioned that you work with Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, and also government trade associations, what would you say are the key lessons that you've learned about communication in very different settings?
I think a few key lessons are that you need to be concise in your communications, whether they're oral or written. People are so bombarded with noise, with the information, emails, and other communications that come their way, especially in the business setting. So you have to get people's attention through your communication. It needs to be clear. It needs to be honest. It needs to be concise. And if you can be creative with it too, and maybe even throw in a little humor if appropriate to gather their attention and keep it.
Love that. And talking more about your career and your background, and trying to talk more about this book, All Up in Your Business. Is it okay if I can ask you for a quick preview on what this book is really all about?
Well, the book is it has many chapters that are focused on different challenges that men and women face in the workforce at a job, especially if they're in business setting. So I go through many challenges that they face, such as performance reviews, asking for a pay raise, working with a team, working on integrated projects. And the challenges that come up with those with those projects or tasks. And then I give solutions or proposed ideas on how they might want to deal with it. So I think it's not a business textbook. I write with a lot of wit and sort of tongue in cheek as to the challenges, and they're based on my almost 40 years in the workforce. But I also provide a solution or suggest a solution to the reader. Is a short book. It also includes my muse, who is it's kind of an interesting tack here. My muse came about is that this is fiction. It came about as I was thinking a lot of times at night as I'm trying to fall asleep, I would have ideas pop into my head, and I would quote from the famous Mel Brooks movie, History of the World, "The muse is upon me." So I gave the muse a fairy-like nymph. She's a fairy-like nymph creature about 2 feet tall who hangs out in my master closet. And her job is to help me with my creative writing. Because I'm very fluent in nonfiction writing, so she's supposed to help me with my fiction writing, my creative writing. But we often tangle because she doesn't think that's her job. She likes to go out clubbing and eat tacos in my closet, and so we often go back and forth. And what really frustrates me is that she never tells me her name.
Oh, so again, so talking more about this book, because I skimmed through a couple of pages, try to check the character, and this muse character, and to all of our viewers, just to give you a heads up though, is a sassy, mercurial, 2-foot tall creature, and now we know it's a nymph, and it has, and it strikes me as a thing though that we're trying to insert a fiction part of it and also a nonfiction part of it, like talking more about balance in delivering like solid and practical advice while keeping so I just want to ask you though, Julianna, like, because again we're talking about having this one who struggles and not telling you don't wants to have this fun part in life, and we're talking about another part which is the serious things in life that we need to encounter. So how do you balance like delivering these practical advice while keeping the tone playful and entertaining in your book then?
It's difficult to do. It is a challenge, and I think you just have to focus on which piece of it you're writing, whether it's the nonfiction piece or the fiction piece. And the nymph, the muse in my book, as you described, she's 2 feet tall. This is all from my character, and some might think that the muse is my alter ego. I've heard people who've read the book describe it as that, but she's sassy as I am. So I think that when you are focusing on both aspects, on things that you need to impart to your audience that are important, and the fiction part of it, it's difficult to blend them. It really is challenging, but it can be done if you focus on each piece separately and then figure out how to put them together.
Love that, love that. And I can only imagine like trying to have trying to balance things out, because again, you might go off on a tangent and try to make it more humorous, or you want to make it more serious though when it comes with book writing though. And the creative process of every book has its own features and challenges. And talking more about this book and trying to get more into the nitty gritty, so you mentioned as well like workplace interactions, like meetings and pay raises. I might be asking for one, and also office relationships. And so these are all universal and often tricky topics. So if I'll be asking you, what are some of the common misconceptions that you aim to address within your book, talking about these topics?
One common misconception that people have is that they can go it alone and be successful. I have found that is not the way to do it. And I think in any job that you have, you need to network. You need to try to get yourself appointed to interdepartmental projects or committees and network, meet people and share information. And I'm also a very big proponent of mentoring. I think that it's key, especially if you're a new employee, to find a mentor at your place of business and someone who will take the time to help guide you someone who has experience at that with that employer, someone who will guide you and offer you sound counsel. I think that I had several mentors when I worked for the Fortune 500 company, and this was very helpful to me, and I would highly recommend it to others.
And you know what? I really like the notion of having mentors as well, if ever you want to really be successful in the workplace. Because again, if you think that you can go through it alone, it's really hard because you need to get these expert advice from people who have been in the business for a long, long time already. They know the ropes, they know the ins and outs, and getting mentorship from them is for you to at least add more knowledge onto your arsenal. Correct me if I'm wrong when I'm stating this fact. Am I correct when I'm understanding this, Juliana?
Yes.
Good, love that, love that. And so again, talking more about the communication process as well. That again, here within a professionals today. So I just like to ask you, like, what do you think are like the biggest communication challenges faced by professionals today, especially in the context of office culture? What are your takes about that?
I think that the main obstacle is that everybody has so much noise around them, and people who want their attention and people who want them to focus on what they're saying either in an email or in oral communication. And it's hard for you to get your message through that noise and to get their attention. So you have to be, I go back to what I said before, you need to be concise and you need to be honest, and you need to try to be creative if you can, because that will be something that may be a little more memorable to the reader. But everyone has very full in emails, and they receive a lot of phone calls and texts and media and social media. So there are a lot of grabs on people's attention, and it's key to be, if you have an important message, that you make it concise and put the key important message up near the top. And also, if you have a problem to identify, also offer one or two solutions. Don't just go whining in your communication to others.
And also, in talking more about, because again, this really interests me, because again, there are a lot of people right now working in office spaces, and this is one thing that they can at least try to grasp on and get this general idea on how can they go around within the workplace. But there is one thing about this book, and you told us earlier that there is a bit of humor that's included within your storytelling. So I'd like to ask you, like, how can humor and storytelling be like powerful tools for navigating? And this is going to be something, though, it's workplace politics. What are your takes about that?
I think that, well, I enjoy humor. I like comedy and comedic writers.
Sure.
I think that if you can make somebody laugh, chuckle even, that relaxes people towards you. And that's a good way to try to get their attention and to get them to listen to you, is to use a little bit of humor. And I use a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor in the book, because I find well, that's just the way I am, and that's what I enjoy writing and talking about. So I think that you mentioned office politics, that is very pervasive, and you have to just try to work through it or work around it. And that's where the mentor comes in. Can be very helpful to you if you find that you're in the middle of some office politics intrigue, to go to the mentor and ask him or her what their advice is for dealing with this office politics. But I think when you use humor, not class clown type of humor, but respectful humor, you can it makes people relax, and I think that's a good way to get their attention.
Love that, love that. And I really love the notion. I do agree with that. Once you get someone to laugh, it makes someone, even if in a tense situation, if people get me to, if I have a good chuckle out of it, it really makes me try to relax in the current situation we're talking about. And I guess it would be something that could really help people navigating the workplace. Special humor is one good thing. It's a very powerful tool, and I do agree with what you're saying here, Juliana, and I do agree with that. So, and also, Juliana, before we wrap this up, though, and try to give this your book to people, and again, we're talking about people who will be interested in picking up your book and people who will be reading this. What will be your takeaways to your future readers who will be picking up your book, and what do you want them to take away after reading your book then?
I want them to take away that there are solutions to these challenges in the workplace. I've outlined some of these challenges many challenges in my book, I think over 30, and simple ways to try to address it, but to do it with some amount of not humor necessarily, but just being more relaxed and thinking through what these challenges are. So I think when people read the book, they'll find they may identify their own workplace in the book, and they may also identify situations that have happened to them in the book that they didn't necessarily think about, this way to go or that way to go. And hopefully they'll come away, as I mentioned before, it's not a business textbook. It has a lot of humor and written tongue in cheek. So I hope that people take away some valuable information that will help them, and they can share it with others.
Love that. Love that. Again, to all of our viewers and book lovers, I would highly suggest for you to grab a copy of Julianna Newland's book that is all up in your business, Managing Your Business Crap, available through Amazon.com. And you know what, Julianna, I just want to say this, though. Thank you very much for joining us today, though. And I want to say, though, with your extensive background and the knowledge you'll be sharing, I'm looking forward to see where your author and writing journey takes you in the future. Thank you very much for joining us, Julianna, and it was a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you.
And
I enjoyed it.
Love that. And again, to all of our viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. And always remember that every ending is just a new beginning in the world of stories. May your reading adventures be endless and your imagination boundless. And as we say here at Reader's Magnet, we share your stories with the world. Thank you and have a good one. Bye-bye.